everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of the Powered by People podcast. Today, I am joined by Ben Usher from Neurovirse. Now, Ben, I had to make some notes about your bio because there's a lot to include. So here we go. Make a deep breath. You was a child actor. Been on shows from Nickelodeon and ITV. I'm pretty sure you said you was on a few episodes of Hollyoaks. You got down to the last 15 people in The Apprentice. You are an entrepreneur, you've got multiple businesses, you've worked in talent teams for brands like Very and Manchester United and University of Manchester, and then currently you are the co-founder of Neurovirse, which is all about connecting neurodivergent talent with businesses who don't get the opportunity, like other people. Have I missed anything?
No, I think that's it, to be honest. There was quite a bit to cover, so yeah, apologies for that. But yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Amazing. No, that's great. So today we're going to talk about neurodivergent talent. We're going to talk about how they get missed and how to fix it within the talent sphere. So first, I've got a few fun questions to ask you there to kick the potty off. So I think I know the answer to this one, but what did you want to be when you grew up? Or what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I always knew when I was going through school. I was very theatrical. Loved sort of like I went to drama school, I think, from like 4 or 5 years old. So that was only ever the plan. That was always going to be the plan. So when I started thinking about university options after sixth form and things like that, I didn't actually go to university because it was always like, when I go to drama school, when I become an actor, blah, blah. So I had like one goal really and one dream. So to answer your question, yeah, I wanted to be an actor. I think I did it for so long. I was in it for a very long time. So I think, yeah, that's always what I wanted to do. There was one plan, one goal, one dream, and that was it. So
That was the goal. Fun fact about me, Ben, is I didn't go to drama school, but I went to drama college and I studied theatre. And obviously I'm putting that to great use now because I work in marketing. So for those, are you an early bird or a night owl?
oh, I'd love to be able to sit here and say early bird because, the whole entrepreneur thing, 5 a.m. club and all that kind of thing. The reality is, I sort of go through phases. So, some mornings I'm really like, yeah, proactive, productive, get up and go and do the gym, get in the sauna and steam before work and things like that. And I'm like ready to tackle the day and do that kind of thing. But, it's not the case all the time. Like if we have late calls and meetings and that kind of thing, I tend to try and treat myself to a bit of buy-in as well. So
Yeah.
go through phases, but yeah, neither one or the other, to be perfectly
I
honest.
feel like there's so much, content now about that whole 5 a.m. club mindset and how actually it might not be the best, especially it's
Yeah.
like an entrepreneur. And if you're trying to grow your business, it's important to get, sleep and, not be out all night. So it's good to see that a shift in where.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a real danger. Actually, there's a risk to actually promoting that kind of message, like you said. The whole thing around like burnout and encouraging people to like stay up until 2 in the morning, sending emails and having calls, and then wake up again at 5 or 6 and do it again. Like, there's only obviously a certain amount of time that you can do that for before you end up. Yeah, it's not sustainable basically. So yeah, I think it's quite a dangerous message to portray. To be honest.
100%. What was the first job that you ever had?
Um, so I had acting jobs from a very young age. So like I've had an agent from like 13 years old. I've set theatre jobs from probably younger than that. My first proper job was a cocktail bartender in a bar on the Wirral. I'm still in touch with the guy now that basically offered me my first opportunity and took that first sort of risk on me and punt and basically, yeah, sort of gave him my first job. Basically, I'm still in touch with him now. I speak to him on WhatsApp quite a bit, and yeah, I've got a lot of time for him because he was the first person to ever sort of like take a risk.
How cool.
I had no experience. I was a confident guy that could chat to people and that could do all the people stuff, but I had no sort of real world experience to put behind me. So yeah, I'm super thankful for that. But we still chat on WhatsApp. He lives in Cayman now, in Grand Cayman. So he's living the life, and
Amazing. And then last question is, what's one app that you can't live without?
oh god. Um, Spotify, maybe, I think.
I've not had that one
Whether
same answer before.
so whether I'm going to the gym or whether I'm sort of at home trying to switch off before bed, I listen to quite a few podcasts. I try and put some a playlist on if I'm on the treadmill and that kind of thing. So whatever I'm doing, whether I'm exercising or whether I'm at home trying to switch off and chill, I'm always kind of listening to something. It's probably an ADHD brain, to be perfectly honest. And obviously we're on the topic of neurodivergency. I haven't had a diagnosis, but I'm pretty convinced that I've probably got ADHD. So it probably ties into that, to be honest with you. The whole always needing to have something in the background or listen to something. So
That makes sense. I know a few people with ADHD, and that's a trait that they have the same, where either they're going to sleep and they need to listen to something, or if they're just in public, like walking around the streets, they've always got to have kind of something in their ear. Um,
yeah.
and I,
Sorry, lastly as well, I want to say, because my friends will take the mick out of me because they call me Mr. LinkedIn. Like, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm posting quite a bit, like, sharing what I'm up to on this full-time founder journey. So I would say the other one is probably LinkedIn.
um,
I get the mick taken at me at football all the time saying, "Oh, here we go, it's Mr. LinkedIn, Mr. LinkedIn's turned up." So LinkedIn is probably the other one, to be perfectly honest with you.
got me out.
I'm checking it morning, noon, and night, and I think it's a really powerful tool to network with people. And there's so much business sat on LinkedIn. People don't actually realize if you're not super active on it or you don't use it. There's so much business sat there. There's so many people that you can connect with in your world and your space. So many networking opportunities, a chance to meet new people, have really productive and conducive conversations. So yeah, LinkedIn's like my Bible, but it probably ties into like the recruitment and the headhunting world, to be perfectly honest. Having been a headhunter for the last 12 years, um, yeah, I mean, it's the number one platform that you use on a daily basis. So, LinkedIn is probably the other one, to be
The other
honest.
one. I think without going down a let's talk about LinkedIn hole, I only ever used to use it when it's like time to find a job. Like I never used to go on there. And then when I started working at the Rec Hub, I started using it a little differently. I don't really post much on there myself, but it just amazes me how open people are to just providing help. Like, I could message anybody and say, "Hi, we're working on insert project here. Would love to get your feedback." And people actually reply and give you their feedback with, like, no strings attached. It's
Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
No, absolutely. Like, I couldn't agree more with that. Particularly, I've found since embarking on this full-time founder journey. So, my fixed term contract came to an end at the University of Manchester on the 12th of Jan this year. So I moved on from full-time employment and jumped straight into the full-time founder life. And I think since doing that, other founders are so happy to help other founders.
Yeah.
Whether that's like people that you meet at events or, like we've said, people to chat on LinkedIn. There's been so many occasions where I've just sent, a direct message to somebody that I've never met before on LinkedIn, but because they're also launching a startup, launching a business, they're in a similar world to me, they're always happy to chat, like you said, happy to help. I think more people respond than not respond. So yeah, definitely a really powerful tool for
That
sure.
puts your faith back in humanity a little, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly, exactly.
So, we'll split what we're gonna talk about today into, I guess, 2 sections, and the first part is all about why neurodivergent talent is missed early. And so one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, where do you think organizations lose that talent before it even enters into the hiring funnel?
Yeah, so I think when we think about neurodivergent talent as a whole, I think we have to look at the reasons why people are actually not making it through hiring processes. And for me, there's a few key drop off points in any given process on any given time. So the first one for me would be the job application or the job advert. And typically around that, the language that we use in job adverts as companies and as clients. So real generalist statements like hardworking, a multitasker, a problem solver. They're not the most inclusive phrases to be used in job adverts and job applications, and typically will end up narrowing talent pool that end up applying for roles. Um, I met a lady at an event around 3 or 4 months ago, and she shared the story with us at the event. So hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing it. But she's AUDHD, so she has autism and she has ADHD. And she said she had a job and a boss many years ago that would say to her in the afternoon or the evening, "Oh, it would be really nice if these reports were on my desk at 9 a.m. the following morning." So she went home thinking, "Oh yeah, it would be really nice if the reports were on his desk at 9 in the morning." But because he hadn't said to her very specifically, "Can you please make sure these reports are on my desk by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning?" it didn't end up getting done. So I think whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical, I think we have to really think about the language that we use when we're communicating with people and the type of language that's going to resonate with certain individuals, whether that's in job adverts, job applications, or whether it's when we're speaking to people on a daily basis. I think, yeah, it's a really interesting topic and something to bear in mind. But the first one would be around job applications, job adverts, and the language that we use in them. Um, the second thing is probably in the interview process as a whole. So the way that the interview processes are structured in enterprise companies today. So we're big believers at Neurovirse, myself and my two co-founders, that recruitment processes or interview processes in enterprise businesses today are not set up for neurodivergent individuals. They're geared towards neurotypical. Um, and the reason I say that is because a lot of them are very, very structured. There isn't much flexibility or agility in the process itself. To give you an example, um, you know, some of these processes might involve a 5 or 6 stage senior leadership panel interview, a 20 to 30 person assessment center, a task that you're given to take home, and you've got to compartmentalize the task and focus on different areas of it at any one given time. So I think the problem lies in us asking people to do things in the interview process that they wouldn't ever be expected to do in the actual job if they were successful in the role. That for me is a real systemic problem. We're assessing people against the wrong sets of criteria
Mm.
in the interviews. So yeah, that ends up probably inevitably filtering some people out the process that would actually be an asset to the organizations that they're interviewing with. Um, our mission statement at Neurovirse is from stigma to superpower. And I think there is a lot of people with superpowers who are going through these processes, but they're not making it through the processes because the interview processes themselves at a lot of these larger companies are not set up for neurodivergent candidates. And that's a pretty bold statement, right? But we believe that, and we have evidence from the work that we've done and the research that we've done to lean quite favorably and heavily towards that. So that'll be the second one. Um, the third one is around employer signaling. So we have given, with the Neurovirse platform, we've given candidates a real safe space to disclose their neurodiversity. But I think in a lot of these enterprise recruitment processes, if there's no mention of neurodiversity in the application process or in the interview process, and companies aren't being forthcoming with it, or they're not mentioning it to candidates, or they haven't displayed anywhere that they're making real conscious efforts to actually take it seriously or hire neurodivergent individuals, it can be a real red flag to people that have neurodivergent conditions.
Yeah, so like
One, because they don't feel like it's a safe space to be able to disclose in the first place, so they don't want to apply. But secondly, they probably don't feel that it's a conducive environment or a confident, comfortable, positive working environment that they want to be in long term if the business that they're working for are not actually taking these kind of things seriously. So yeah, some really interesting topics, but I think a lot of it is around perceived fit and psychological safety before the process even starts for a lot of these candidates.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, Ben, when the podcast goes live, we'll have, links to Neuroverse and a bit of information about what it is that you do. But for the listeners, do you want to just give a few points about what Neuroverse does, what they're trying to do, and why you're the right person to speak on this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've co-founded an AI-driven SaaS platform that connects neurodivergent individuals to enterprise job opportunities. So the way the platform works, candidates will log onto the platform. They'll take a 7-minute neurodivergency assessment. They'll come out the back of the assessment with a success profile. I'll come on to why we've included that and we've moved away from CVs in a bit. But yeah, so they log on, they do the assessment, they get a success profile, and then the AI then works in the background to match the success profile to the enterprise employment opportunities in the other side of the system. So yeah, we're hopefully creating or providing access to millions of neurodivergent candidates globally, providing them access to enterprise grade job opportunities that they may not necessarily be able to access because of the way that a lot of the interview processes are structured nowadays.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really good. So I suppose in that sense, what assumptions do hiring teams make about like we see a lot about the ideal candidate or, fit, the perfect fit or the right fit. What
Yeah.
assumptions do you see that I suppose limit who gets considered for that role?
Yeah. So I think this is a really difficult one because whether we like it or not, the bias still exists in recruitment processes. Right, we're all human beings, and unfortunately, there is still some systemic bias floating around that we need to try and work really hard to try and overcome, navigate, etc., etc. So I think when hiring managers are thinking about the typical person that they would like to hire in a role, from our experience and what we've seen, they tend to lean more towards the last person that did that job and how they were and what they were like, because that's lived experience that the hiring manager has actually gone through. So they end up wanting to hire a similar person to the last person that did the job,
That's so true.
um, which is really dangerous for me.
Mm.
The second one would be, as human beings, we tend to try and want to hire clones or emulations of ourselves, right? So it's all around like mirrored behavior, and we tend to like lean towards and be more fond of people that are like us. I have similar personality traits or characteristics or behaviors. Um, yeah. So I think that they're the two kinds of profiles that hiring managers we've seen. If they're gonna sort of make any mistakes in the recruiting process, they tend to be the kind of things that they lean towards. So I think to sum that up, hiring managers have a bit of a propensity to lean more towards familiarity as opposed to assessing capability. Um, so neither of these things are predictors of success, in my opinion. And the reason for that, I'll give you an example. So someone that struggles with interviewing, for example, it doesn't mean to say that they don't have real deep focus, pattern recognition, real strong problem solving abilities. Someone that has a non-linear CV, it doesn't mean they're not an analytical thinker, a creative thinker, and that kind of thing. So these fallback positions that we often sort of lean towards, yeah, they're not predictors of success because there's more than one way to actually think about things. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, and I suppose you've worked across a variety of industries, retail, sport, tech, education. Do you find that some industries are better at that than others?
Yeah, I would say from my experience, tech is usually a really often a good industry at recognizing people's like core strengths and things like that. And that's often due to the analytical and systemic based thinking that a lot of tech roles require. Um, that's not to say that the other industries are not as good, or they've fallen behind slightly, but there is some work that we need to do right across the board in order to pull maybe some of the other industries up. But yeah, I would say tech in my experience is pretty good for those reasons because of the nature of what the roles actually involve. Often when a tech process is run very well, a tech recruitment process, a lot of thought is applied to the kind of person that needs to be able to do that we need to be able to do that job. Yeah, due to the nature of what the role involves, basically. That said, obviously, when I worked at the University of Manchester in an education environment, second largest university in the UK, huge reputation and brand to actually carry. So they were very inclusive. We were very inclusive when I worked there. So we would give every single candidate the chance to disclose their disability at the start of the recruitment process. There'd be schemes that they could opt into. We took reasonable accommodations, workforce disability, inclusion very seriously. There was a lot of work that we did at the university around ED&I, inclusive work practices, and that kind of thing. So I would say education was pretty. It was a pretty positive environment to work in from that perspective as well. Tech and education, I'd call out probably. Um, Retail and sport, yeah, I don't have too many experiences with ED&I in because I was a bit earlier on in my career, but I've got involved in the more strategic stuff more recently. So
Yeah, and I suppose, everyone's learning every day, right? So I suppose it's just about being open to those changes and using platforms like yourself. And
yeah, for sure, for sure.
not really a curve question, but I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned a moment ago about, stepping away from the CV and having, did you call it like a score? you called it like
A success profile.
success profile. What does that look like? What's on there? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'm going to make some pretty bold statements here. Okay. So just bear with me. We have our own views. I say we, my founding team and me, it's more me really, but I have my own views around CVs. So there's been some studies and reports done and some stats around how accurate and effective CVs are. And I believe they're only really between a 20 and 30% predictor of success. CVs are dead. It has been bandied around a bit in our founding team that they're often misleading, fictitious documents. People have created them themselves. It's not based on any sort of cognitive science or any sort of psychological or clinical validated assessments. So I think CVs allow us to inform companies and clients where we've been and the types of jobs that we've had in the past, the experience that we have, the types of roles that we've done. What they don't do is tell us about how someone behaves in a real world working environment, someone's problem solving ability, someone's ability to be able to sort of think on their feet, make decisions, etc., etc. Like the CV doesn't do any of that. Whereas the success profile will give clients a real strong indication of someone's characteristics, traits, behaviors, their ability to be able to apply certain thinking mechanisms within certain environments. So the way we've set up the success profile in the Neurovirse platform, we've killed the CV basically and replaced it with the success profile. So in essence, the success profile is a one pager, and it's very visual, it's very graphic. It gives clients an indication around like bar charts, pie charts, strengths, that kind of thing. And there's a summary at the bottom about the person and the way that their brain works. So it's based on 8 different cognitive archetypes that we've actually assessed during the process that hopefully gives the client a better understanding about things that they wouldn't necessarily be able to pull out from a CV. So we're hopefully providing some more color around the individual with the success profile as opposed to a CV. And the candidates within the Neurovirse platform can take away the success profile and they can use it outside of the platform as well. And that's us hopefully trying to get more people into going down this avenue of assessment-based thinking. So
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you've just said there, especially regarding the CV. I mean, I'm a creative myself, so whenever it comes to, applying for jobs and stuff, not that I am, by the way. But I just always think like this bit of paper is not going to reflect what I've done in my career. So whether they ask for it or not, I always provide also a portfolio that's got visuals and examples and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think you would be the only one that, thinks that about the CV.
yeah,
I suppose-
exactly. I think it's very prevalent for neurodivergent individuals as well. Going back to the whole deep focus, pattern recognition, problem solving abilities and things like that. These are all things that typically present, maybe not usually, but often in neurodivergent individuals. And we don't feel the CV gives them the opportunity to be able to pull out these kinds of things and give the end client a real good understanding of what's the best measure of success.
Recruitment? Yeah, it needs a refresh. 47 billion euros wasted globally every year. Outdated processes, poor hires, time loss. That's not a crack, that's a sinkhole.
But that's where we come in.
We're not here to paper over the cracks. We're here to tear the whole thing down and rebuild it. We don't have a talent bench. We have an agile community ready to flex and flow with your needs. Forget traditional RPOs. Forget that one-size-fits-all nonsense. Recruitment doesn't work that way anymore. With responsive, reliable recruitment support when you need it. We're 100% reliable. No fixed bench, no cookie cutter solutions.
What we do have is an obsession with delivering agile, authentic, noble talent solutions. And the best part, you don't have to settle for good enough anymore.
It's about talent, real talent, embedded into your team like it was always meant to be there. Just a collective of top-tier recruiters, ready to deploy in days, not weeks. Basically, we're not your average recruiters.
Actually, we're the exact opposite of that.
We don't just send over CVs and cross our fingers. We're in your corner, repping your brand, your culture, your values.
It's time to evolve. It's time to think differently. it's time to just ask the Rec Hub.
So part 2 was matching and assessing talent more accurately. And one of the questions I was going to ask you is, why does CV-led screening struggle to reflect how someone will actually perform in a role, which you've kind of touched on, but is there anything else that you wanted to add on to that?
No, I would say it's probably just around the assessment. So I think the assessment framework is hopefully in the future the way to go. The assessment that we've built in the Neurovirse platform, it's had 1.4 million completions. Because of the 1.4 million completions, it's given us access to 35 million clinical data points
Wow.
on individuals. So we would like to hopefully say that we're in a pretty strong position to be able to give people a good indicative sort of feeling about how likely someone is to succeed at a certain role. So I think the assessment is the way forward and the way to go. We've partnered with an assessment provider. We're all talent acquisition leaders. So we've done assessment over the years, but we're not clinical psychologists. So instead of white labeling the assessment, we've really tried to bring in that expertise of people that are clinical psychologists, using an assessment that's backed by science, that's scientifically validated. So I think that would probably be my answer around like the way to go. We've tried to incorporate that. Not to say that we're the experts, but we've tried to involve somebody else who has that expertise into the Neurovirse platform, so we're able to assess people in the right way, basically.
And I think the platform, Ben, it sounds so interesting. I mean, I'm dyslexic myself, but even I'm like, I want to go on here and see, how it works. So can listeners of the podcast, can anyone go on and do the assessment, or do you have to be kind of assigned to, is it the enterprise signs up, or how does that work, just in case?
Yeah, so absolutely. In the next few weeks, once we finish that, we're coming towards the end of the development stages. So once we finish that, candidates will be able to log on and they'll be able to take the 7-minute neurodivergency assessment. And hopefully, because we're still quite early stage, they'll be able to find out some more information about their 8 different cognitive archetypes or how their brain works, and hopefully be able to find some information out that they necessarily didn't know already about what direction their career might end up taking, or what kind of direction that they want their career to take. Hopefully it allows them to make some more informed decisions around their career, or what that next job looks like for them. And similarly, what kind of environments that they're going to feel sort of most confident in, most productive in, the types of organizations that they might want to work for. Hopefully they take something away from the assessment that says, okay, I now know this about me that I didn't know before. So these are the types of roles that I'm going to apply for. These are the types of companies that I'm going to want to apply to. I think not enough people make informed decisions about what job they're going to do. And it's kind of scary, right? So I had a bit of I had a similar business around 5 or 6 years ago called Path. It was a student matching app. And I wanted to try and give students a better understanding about the types of roles that they're going to do post-university. Because I think it sounds crazy, but I'm only working in recruitment because someone 12 years did say to me, hey, Ben, you can chat to people. You'd be great at sales. Why don't you give recruitment a go? And fast forward 50 years, I'm still working in it, but it's not based on anything. I may as well put my finger in the air and go, okay, like, what way's the wind blowing? Let's just like.
That's probably the same for half the industry, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And that sounds so concerning and worrying to me in a way, because it's like we're not making any decisions based on like evidence, data, fact about what sort of careers that we're going to do as people, or what sort of jobs that we're going to have. It's not really based on anything. So we want to try and start giving people a better understanding about where their skills are, where what their personality is more aligned to, how their brain works, and therefore what particular positions they're going to be better at, and then try and help people make more informed decisions, which will hopefully lead to increased job satisfaction, increased earning potential, better cultures within enterprise environments, and more positive and conducive working environments, to be honest. So yeah, there's a really long answer, but it's a topic that I get sort of pretty passionate about, because none of us make decisions on our careers based on anything, really. I speak to a load of my friends and they say, yeah, I'm doing this job because I've done it for the last 10 years, or I'm doing this job because my peers at the time were doing it, or I'm doing this job because my parents told me it was a good idea. And it's like, okay, but is that based on anything other than any of those factors? Is it based on like how your brain works and things like that? So we want to try and delve deep into that neuroscience element and try and help people better understand themselves as an individual, and then help them make more informed career decisions, basically.
Yeah, I think definitely now you see a lot of people, there's things like Whoop, Harry and I was talking about, the Whoop,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
get, and it's like, there's a real interest in us understanding like who we are and what we're made and the data of the person. So I feel like the platform is, if it's come at such the right time.
The timing for us at the moment couldn't be any better, to be perfectly honest with you. So there's some legislation that's hit the UK in the last few months in 2026. It's called the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. So it basically states that enterprise companies over 150 million euro in turnover in Europe or 150 million pounds turnover in the UK now by law have to start reporting on the S, which is the social pillar within their ESG policies
Wow.
that roll up into the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. So when when enterprise businesses now submit their financial year-end accounts, it's now law in the UK and the EU that they have to start reporting on things like workforce disability, reasonable accommodations, inclusive practices. They have to be able to show and evidence and report that they're making increased efforts to hire more neurodivergent individuals, which is an amazing thing, right? It's a great thing for Neurovirse and the platform, but much bigger than that and much more important than that, from a social impact perspective, it's hopefully going to mean that a lot of neurodivergent individuals gain more access to jobs that they potentially wouldn't have had access to. There's some scary stats. So there's 1 in 5 people that have a diagnosis in the UK right now. We think it's much higher than that because there's lots of people that have gone undiagnosed for many years.
You haven't been diagnosed, but you think.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So hopefully maybe this process might lead me to getting a diagnosis. But we think it's much higher than 1 in 5 because there's a lot of people living their life, experiencing challenges or trying to overcome hurdles because of their neurodivergent conditions. So we think it's much higher than 1 in 5. But of that 1 in 5, 80% of the neurodivergent population are either unemployed or underemployed.
Well,
That's a real issue, right? It's a real problem. And I think that's another reason now why we want to try and hopefully make a transformational shift in this world. Because yeah, those stats are horrifying. 80% of the population are either unemployed or underemployed. So yeah, there's definitely some way that we need to go to try and change a lot of things.
100%. And I suppose going back to understanding, the behaviors, what does a strong objective view of someone's strengths and their behaviors look like when you remove that bias?
Yeah. So I think it's the assessment. Again, I think it's the clinical validity of the assessment. So when we're assessing people in that way and looking at their cognitive archetypes, their ability to make decisions, their ability to be able to behave in a certain way in a certain environment, that is all evidence-based. So I think it allows us to potentially not be biased to certain circumstances and situations because it's all based on data, facts and things like that. I think when you look at the CV, I think the CV opens it up to a lot of bias, right? You will see things on people's CVs and you will form certain subjective opinions potentially about brands that people have worked at, companies that they've worked at, jobs that they've had, hobbies that they've had or things that they like to do in their spare time, and you form certain opinions in your head of the type of person that they are. I think if you go down the assessment route, like I keep sort of talking about, it's all, backed by science. It's all evidence-based. There's facts and there's data. It's really positive for the candidate because they're able to learn more about themselves than they didn't know. But hopefully the client and the end company/customer gets a much better and clearer picture of the type of individual that they're going to be hiring into their team and bringing into their business. So I think going down that sort of route allows hopefully the bias to be removed from the process as much as physically possible. Um, Obviously, some of these reports can still be interpreted in certain ways, and often you need to have like a psychology accreditation to be able to interpret these reports in a particular way. But I think trying to go down that route as much as possible, or incorporate as much assessment as possible into the recruitment process, allows us to hopefully try and remove some, or go some way to removing some of the bias basically on the process.
I suppose like there'll probably be TA leaders listening to this thinking, do you know what, it's something we really need to work on. But it's an overwhelming subject because you're talking about psychology, and it's like you said, you have to have certain accreditation. So it's like, where do we begin? So is there any? You spoke about the assessment and maybe some of the language, but are there any tips you could give to the TA leaders that want to connect with different people and make sure that they're taking the right steps to do so?
Absolutely. Pick the phone up to the rec hub, and try and get some senior talent partners onboarded into your business because yeah. Pick the phone up to the rec hub and book a Neurovirse demo. They would be my two big ones. No, but in all seriousness, I think it's about having the right people working the right roles. I think it's really important as a recruiter to know your candidates deeper than the CV, and try and get to know your candidates on a deeper level that will give you information that a CV potentially wouldn't be able to tell you, or things that you wouldn't be able to draw out from the CV. And then the other one would be like, know the job that you're working inside out. Really get to understand and spend the time with the hiring managers, to understand, okay, from a technical perspective, this is what's expected in the role, but also like much further than that, from a cultural perspective, from a behavioral perspective, from a soft skills perspective, from a team perspective, like, our team operates in this way. So what kind of individual do we need in this team today? I think another thing that the Neurovirse platform will hopefully do in the future is that it'll have the ability to be able to assess current workforce in organizations, so that we can provide some information and data to companies on, actually, from a cognitive archetype perspective, the team that you have in the business for the team that you're trying to hire for. These are all the cognitive archetypes of the people that you already have. Therefore, what kind of individual do you want to bring in to be able to complement all these personalities that you already have? I think businesses don't do enough of that, to be perfectly honest with you, profiling people that they already have and going, okay, this is who we have, therefore that should inform the types of people that we need to bring in to the organization. So I would say that, outside of picking the phone up to record and booking a Neurovirse demo, obviously.
That's true. That makes we speak a lot about like you'll hear people use the term like cultural fit, and it's like, is that the right word to use? Like, do you want someone that just fits in, or do you want someone that's going to come and help scale and challenge and all that kind of stuff? So
Yeah, it's like that thing, isn't it, around like culture fit versus like culture ads. Like, I see people talking about it on LinkedIn, on posts all the time, and they say, we don't want people to just fit in with the model and the mechanism that we have here. Completely depends, like, the type of business that you are, right? Whether you are a really progressive, energetic scale up startup, and you need people to be able to flourish in that kind of environment, which is sometimes, as we both know, like organized chaos. I've worked for a number of startups in the past. I worked with a construction technology startup they were a scale up at the time, called Yardlink. I built a talent acquisition for them from scratch and doubled the size of their company in 12 months. So I've worked a lot in that startup scale up space. And yeah, I think you need different types of individuals for different businesses, but definitely people that can come in and add to the culture, not just sort of, fit into a model or a mechanism that you already have, because a lot of these businesses are ever changing. You'll know, the pace that you work at in recruitment, or these startup and scale ups environments, because things are moving so quickly. Cultures progress, cultures move on, cultures change. So I think it's about being able to bring in people that are adaptable, and that can move with the business, but also bring some real creative spirit and entrepreneurialism, to the business and to the teams that they work in and work as part of.
Yeah, 100%. So thank you so much, Ben. You told us so much amazing information. I mean, some of the stats that you've shared are just like mind-boggling. And I'll definitely make sure that we link in the bottom any links to Neurovirse. And you said when the assessment is ready to launch, we'll definitely share that with our listeners too. We like to wrap up with the same question for all of our guests, which is one bit of professional advice you'd give to your younger self. What?
Oh, um, there's probably a few, to be honest with you. So, the first thing would be like, do the thing. So whatever idea it is that you have, whatever sort of business it is that you're thinking about setting up, give it a go, do it, throw yourself in the deep end, like really apply yourself. If you care hard enough and care passionately enough about a specific idea, and a specific area that you're working in, you will make it work. I think I can confidently say that hopefully now, I've threw myself into full-time farmer life, which my family and peers would probably argue it's a bit of a risk, but you know, it's paying dividends right now, and I think that everything you get back from that is so rewarding. So
Yeah.
if you have an idea, make it happen, do it, brainstorm it, that kind of things. That would be my first piece of advice. How you do anything is how you do everything, or how you do one thing is how you do everything. So every interaction that you have with people, there's been so many instances for me, I would say in the last 8, 9, 10 years, people that I used to work with that have come round back into my life. So I got introduced to Kevin, my co-founder, through a guy called Colin Watt. Shout out Colin if you're listening. He's been like a bit of a mentor to me during my career. Really, really good guy, a global chief people officer, HR director for a number of global companies. And I worked with him at the Very Group many years ago, so 8, 9, 10 years ago. And we've stayed in touch ever since. So I think like every interaction that you have with people, you never know when it's going to come back around and sort of reappear in your life later down the line. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. Make sure that every interaction that you have with people is steeped in like the type of person that you are and your authenticity and the type of person that you want to be. And then the last one would be like, don't be afraid to try things, make mistakes. I failed so many times. I've had 3, 4, 5 companies prior to Neurovirse. I had a business called, well, the business actually that I took to The Apprentice that you mentioned earlier on in the call was called On the Go. It was basically Subway for omelets. It was like a healthy eating breakfast kind of like concept. And it came from the idea of me wanting to like be on the hunt for a healthy breakfast. Really, there's all these convenience fast foods and kinds of things like that, like bacon butties, sausages, and all that kind of thing. But I was training at the time and in the gym and that kind of thing, and I really was on the hunt for a healthy breakfast. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go away and think of an idea and create something. So I took that to The Apprentice many years ago. I've had a talent consultancy. I've had the Path student matching app. I've had an entertainment business where we booked artists and booked entertainment to venues and events and that kind of thing. So I'm probably on business number 5 or business number 6 now. So I've failed lots of times, made loads of mistakes, but I think perseverance and persistence is the key. Like keep trying things that you care about and enjoy and feel that you're good at, and you'll be able to make a lot of money in. So 3 pieces of advice. You asked for one. Sorry, Beast, be there. So.
Yeah, no, do you know what? I love that, Ben. I love that you've shared that because I feel like a lot of people, they don't share their failures. And you see, there's a lot of stuff on LinkedIn about, the CEO and the founder life and how everyone thinks it's so glamorous. And then it's really fucking hard. And like, no one gets sleep and you're just like, slogging just to try and build this business. So the fact that you've shared, yes, I've got this business, but I've also had these businesses and, they failed, but here we go. Like, we go again. I think that.
Yeah, exactly. I was up till 2 a.m. preparing for this podcast. Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, so there's these, there's these things that you're expected to do, whether it's speaking gigs or whether it's, I've done some things on stage and things where you've had to sort of go and speak to rooms full of people and that kind of thing. So Yeah, I think there's a lot of preparation involved in a lot of these things that you're asked to do. And you've got to put the time in, you've got to put the work, and you've got to put the effort in. We're raising investment and raising capital at the moment. So, we're doing investor outreach till pretty late into the evenings and early mornings. And we've got a lot of calls with different venture capitalist funds and high net worths and strategic angel investors to hopefully provide us with the funding that we need to catapult the Neurovirse platform and take it to the dizzy heights. We've done a lot of press and media this week because it's Neurodiversity Celebration Week. So we've done some interviews with some major tabloids, and obviously we're really happy to come in here and speak on here with Record, which is great. But yeah, we're very busy doing that. We have a goal to try and help 1 million plus candidates or 1 million plus neurodivergent individuals globally. They're the kind of numbers that we're putting on it and thinking about. So that's the social impact side. We'd really like to try and help 1 million plus neurodivergent individuals and provide them access to enterprise grade job opportunities. So yeah.
Well, we wish you all the best. I think you're going to smash it. Sounds amazing. And do you know what I think we should do? I think we should book a podcast for the 19th of March, 2027, 1 year day, and we'll touch base and see how the year's been. What do you think to that?
Sounds like a plan to me. That's absolutely fine. Hopefully we're much further on than we are now, and we'll have a little more information to be able to give you.
In a posh office and everything. What are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed. We'll see. We won't let it fail. We'll do everything that we can to make sure we're really well positioned to deliver a really good business. We have a really credible, experienced founding team. I think we have between 50 years plus talent acquisition experience between the three of us. We care deeply about talent acquisition. It's a space that we've worked in for a long time. There's personal stories attached to the business. So all three of us have neurodivergent children or partners. So it's something that's pretty close to our heart. We're co-designing the platform around alongside neurodivergent people as well. So everyone can have some confidence that actually we're doing the right thing and we're moving in the right direction. So.
Yeah, that definitely shows, Ben. So well done. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and we'll speak soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Really enjoyed it. Cheers, Rosie.